No lives matter. So it's straight war. I'll be real with you. It's war. We're at war. This isn't like they say. There's no friends at war. So I respect the guy, as you said, he's done well, all that good stuff. But we're fighting.
To fight? Not as of yet. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to go get my head bashed in. Sparring is sparring, and we can see some sort of technicality being shown. Now, a lot of people are calling it fake. They're saying that it's set up.
Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okoli, some of the best the sport's got in the heavyweight division. And he said there's no way these guys are actually going in there and sparring to the full extent. Look, you're a fighter. You've had so many camps throughout your life. Do you think Jake is almost asking them to go easy, or do you think this is proper sparring going on?
The point of sparring is to learn. The point of sparring is not for them to get in there and give Jake a concussion so he can't fight.
Anthony Joshua repeatedly exposes Jake Paul's knockout sparring as fake, claiming the clips exaggerate his effectiveness. He stresses that real sparring should be fair and intense, warning that the ring will reveal the truth. Despite calling out the staged nature, Joshua still acknowledges Paul as a worthy opponent deserving respect.
Yeah, definitely. He's always wanted to be a boxer. He's got a stand-up game. I respect him as a boxer.
Some analysts have criticized Jake Paul's sparring footage, claiming it's staged to highlight only the moments where he lands knockouts. They argue that releasing selective clips doesn't provide a full picture of his performance or abilities. Critics suggest that at least 3 to 4 complete rounds should be shown to assess the sessions fairly. Additionally, they point out that the sparring partner Paul knocked out isn't particularly skilled, making him easier to hit than a highly skilled heavyweight. These observations raise questions about how representative the clips are of Paul's true preparedness and whether his in-ring effectiveness against elite fighters can be accurately judged from such selective highlights.
Sparring videos, I agree with that. If we're going to see that clip of you knocking this guy down, we want to see at least a full round. We want to see what you're actually doing. If you're going to show us knocking this guy down, show us more. Is his opponent any good? Okay, that's another very good question. His opponent may just be, and we couldn't really see much of him there. He didn't really throw a shot. His opponent might be a nobody. His opponent might be a guy who started box fit a few weeks ago. So that's a very good point. It's things like this we have to actually ask when we, boxers essentially putting up videos of them knocking people out. Who is this guy? You need to know that, because then that kind of qualifies that knockout or knockdown to be good or bad.
Andrew Tate comments on Jake Paul's sparring sessions, suggesting that the heavyweights aren't giving their full effort. He explains that the purpose of sparring is to learn and improve, but in these cases, the fighters are holding back. According to Tate, they are being paid by Paul. So, their main goal is to fulfill the session rather than challenge him seriously. This means punches lack full intensity and defensive pressure is reduced, limiting the realism of the sparring. Tate emphasizes that while these sessions may help Paul rehearse techniques, they don't truly replicate the experience of facing a highly competitive opponent.
I think as a boxing purist, it's quite upsetting to watch, young fighters struggle to pay the bills and struggle in little shithole gyms around the country trying to get big money fights and going through the Olympics and going through the amateurs and not being able to pay their bills. And I understand how frustrating that can be. So I think that's where the frustration comes from. I don't think it's everything that's wrong with boxing. I think that anything that gets people to tune in to a boxing match is good for the sport.
One more comment that he said was, Jake's been sparring Frank Sanchez, Jared Anderson, Lawrence Okoli, some of the best the sport's got in the heavyweight division. And he said there's no way these guys are actually going in there and sparring to the full extent. Look, you're a fighter. You've had so many camps throughout your life. Do you think Jake is almost asking them to go easy, or do you think this is proper sparring going on?
The point of sparring is to learn. The point of sparring is not for them to get in there and give Jake a concussion so he can't fight. So are they trying to knock Jake out? No. But are they giving him enough work?
Gareth A. Davies didn't hold back when confronting Duke about Jake Paul, warning that Paul could run like a thief in the night. Drawing on the devastating knockout he witnessed Francis Ngannou suffer, Davies stressed that this fight is far more dangerous for Paul than many realize. He argued that stepping into the ring with a seasoned heavyweight like Anthony Joshua will expose Paul to risks he hasn't faced before. According to Davies, the reality of this challenge will hit Paul as soon as the bell rings, making this bout a serious test rather than just another spectacle or publicity stunt.
Go on, I watched him knock out Francis Ngannou inside 2 rounds.
Yeah.
How can that go 3 rounds with Jake Paul?
It's very hard to knock out somebody that just hasn't come to fight and somebody that's just trying to survive. And that's what I think will happen to Jake Paul.
Do you think he'll run?
I think he'll run like a thief in the night. Once he sees the size of Joshua, those little 10-ounce gloves that they're going to be wearing, he's going to be petrified and his backside will fall out.
I went to the press conference in Miami for that a couple of weeks ago, and he was planning to motorboat AJ, and he thought differently of it when he was standing with him.
Good luck with that, mate.
No, AJ was He'd have got motorboated out of there.
Listen, mate, listen. Good luck with that, because if he starts out with AJ, puts his chin out and starts trying to goad him in, I think Anthony Joshua will definitely iron him out early.
Do you think he finishes his boxing career then?
Let's hope so.
If Jake Paul does something weird and wins, is that impossible?
Nothing's impossible. Nothing is impossible. Highly unlikely, but not impossible.
If you'd been invited to fight Jake Paul for 25, I've heard it's 25 million. That's me behind the scenes. Other people have told me it's 60. Other people have told me it's more for Anthony Joshua. If you had been a current world champion and you'd been offered that fight with Jake Paul, would you have taken it?
100%.
So he had to take it.
He had to take it.
So you've got nothing against him taking it?
I've got nothing against him taking it, spending the money even. Still got nothing against that. My concern is for the health and safety of Jake Paul and the sport of boxing.
Because boxing will be pulled into the dock if something happens to Jake. It would never have been.
Paul himself has been vocal about the intensity of his recent training sessions. In interviews, he revealed that sparring with top-tier heavyweights has left him physically battered, even resulting in a nose injury. The sparring footage, while highlighted in promotional clips, tells a more complex story than the knockout moments Paul chooses to showcase. Analysts reviewing the sessions noted that some of his sparring partners appeared to exaggerate reactions to his punches. In several instances, the opponents moved themselves toward the ropes after relatively minor strikes, suggesting that the highlights may not fully reflect Paul's real in-ring effectiveness. Observers caution that these clips, while impressive to casual fans, don't necessarily translate to preparedness for someone with Joshua's experience and power.
Couple millimeters to this camp. I'm not gonna lie, this sparring the heavyweights, my nose has slight little something in there. A guy by the name of Frank Sanchez, he definitely cracked it a little bit. But yeah, man, it's bad. Wait, hold on. Look at that, dude. I'm like Squidward, dog. But don't respect me for getting in there. Respect me when I beat his ass. I'm not just walking into a fight. I'm going to win. That's what's going to shock the world. I will become the king of boxing.
Analysts reviewing Jake Paul's knockout sparring sessions have raised questions about their authenticity. They observed that the opponents often reacted disproportionately to Paul's punches, sometimes moving toward the ropes or corner after relatively minor strikes. This exaggerated response gives the appearance of dominance but may not accurately reflect Paul's true in-ring effectiveness. By pushing themselves out of position so easily, the sparring partners create highlights that make Paul look more powerful than he might be against an elite opponent. Commentators caution that while the clips are impressive for promotion, they should not be taken as definitive proof of Paul's readiness for someone with the skill and experience of a seasoned heavyweight.
Or something like that. Like, even if you, especially if you see a replay, sometimes it happens so fast. Like, if it's a replay, usually like, oh, there's the one, or like you get a reaction when someone gets hit. You're not like, oh, I wonder if. Like, if you're questioning it, then typically the fighter gave in or decided to kneel down or push himself out of the ring or wanted to get out of the fight. You can tell right away. Like, when I land a body shot on somebody or when I got hit by a body shot, you could tell. I don't know, you guys can make your own assessment, but to me, this is a little sketchy. To me, the person he was boxing, obviously.
BJ Flores, who has trained Paul in the past, offered a deeper insight into the mindset behind these decisions. According to Flores, Paul's goal is not merely to entertain, but to prove he can stand toe-to-toe with legitimate professional boxers. Unlike his previous opponents, who were often celebrities or athletes from other sports, Paul is now intentionally testing himself against heavier and more technically proficient fighters. Flores emphasized that this shows a level of ambition and courage, signaling that Paul is serious about transcending the boundaries of novelty bouts.
Fight. And, to anybody in the industry, Anthony Joshua is a world champion, a gold medalist. This is a big difference from, anybody else that, Jake's fought in the past. But, he's looking for these big challenges. He wants to fight the toughest guys. And I think with Anthony Joshua, he got exactly that. I mean, Anthony Joshua is a guy I would have never dreamed in a million years Jake would have fought him in his fifth year boxing in a fight situation like this. I thought he would have given it a little more time, but I mean, this is an extremely difficult fight. Anthony Joshua is 6'6", 245 pounds, extremely dangerous, gold medalist, world champion, and I think this is a very, very difficult fight for Jake. So I wouldn't have made this fight. No.
What do you give it in terms of percentage-wise? Like 60% AJ wins, 40% Jake Paul wins, or 50-50, 70-30? How do you give it?
Well, I mean, you got to go up when you go off the resumes. That's what I go off of. A lot of people will say potential, like, oh, this could happen, this could happen. I only go off like who's beaten who. So if you look at it on paper, it doesn't look like Jake has any chance on paper, but I think that's probably why he wanted to make this fight. And like I said, I'm not in the camp, so I don't know all the the conversations that are going on in camp Jake Paul right now. But on paper, this looks like an extremely difficult fight. And any boxing experts, that I've talked to, whether it's former fighters or whoever, just they don't give Jake any chance at all. I'm not saying he doesn't have any chance. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that everybody in the know-how as far as the boxing world, they're like, Jake has zero chance to win this fight. And it is on paper though. It does seem like it's early, and it does seem like it's premature in my opinion.
So what are you giving it then? A 90-10?
Like AJ's had, I don't know, probably I want to say 30.
Despite these efforts, critics have questioned the choice of sparring partners Paul selected. Some analysts argue that while Paul's sparring partners are heavyweight competitors, they differ significantly from Joshua in terms of reach, technique, and adaptability. For example, the knockout of Greg Hardy, widely circulated in highlight reels, has been criticized for being misleading. Hardy was considered relatively easy to hit, and the footage may exaggerate Paul's dominance. Observers suggest that effective preparation for Joshua requires sparring partners who can replicate his unique combination of speed, power, and tactical awareness, something that the current lineup may not fully provide. The situation has led to broader discussions about the legitimacy of Paul's recent sparring sessions.
The wrong boxers. His preparation for the Anthony Joshua fight, and let me tell you why. The names that he's got here are Jared Anderson, Frank Sanchez, and Lawrence Okolie. They're all professional heavyweights. They are all probably top 20 heavyweights in the world right now, which is fair enough for Jake to bring them in. But in terms of preparing for an opponent, Jared Anderson is too cat and mouse. His game isn't about pure power. It is not about boxing as a boxer-puncher. It is very much an outboxer. Anthony Joshua is not going to do that. Frank Sanchez has his own kind of unique style, but I would still put him in that category as almost a plodding heavyweight. He's very, very slow. His hand speed's not quite there. Defensively, he's not that switched on. And Lawrence Okolie is very, very much a hit and grab style heavyweight. Seen Okolie, his fights are a little bit boring. Some elements of his game are similar to Anthony Joshua. He's probably the closest match, I would say, out of these guys. But the problem is with Okolie, he'll throw maybe one or two shots and then he will hold. And when people throw shots back at him, he will hold. Anthony Joshua, he's never been the best at holding. He's never been the best in the clinch. His inside work's not quite there. The height and somewhat the weight would probably be quite the same for these guys, but in terms of actually replicating a boxing style, it would have been far, far better, in my opinion, getting somebody in like maybe a Tony Yoka. Even potentially drafting in Daniel Dubois if he's available, maybe even a Filip Hergovic. I know Richard Riakpor's just had a fight, but Riakpor, in my opinion, would have been a better pick than all of these guys. Yeah, that is why Jake Paul has chosen the wrong sparring partners. Why this fight's going to be horrible for Jake. But I'll give him his respect. Fair play for bringing actual pro heavyweights in for sparring. Let me know in the comments, do you think these guys are good sparring partners? Think I'm wrong? Or do you agree with me? To improve Jake Paul's chances in the fight. Hit that follow button if you made it this far, and as always, I like a favourite, a save and a share.